Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy y'all, red.olaughlin here. We're on the corner bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And let me introduce myself first. red.olaughlin. I'm a researcher, a writer, speaker, author. I primarily focus on longevity issues, age-related things. I research the human body at the cellular level. Chemically speaking, I look for cause and effect relationships. And that's what I write about and speak about. I'm also a TV host here. I do 3 shows. The show is the Corner Bookstore, hence a little bit of my books behind me. The next show is called The Wise Ones, and I follow up with a show called Talking Heads. Today, my topic is going to be on control. Are you really in control? Talk a little bit, how do we make those changes in our lives, particularly when we want to change our health? That being said, that's kind of enough introduction, I think, for today. So let's go ahead and jump into our program. Joe Mckay is a Canadian author. He was on The Wise Ones a couple, 3 weeks back. And he's an interesting guy, one of the most interesting people I've talked to in a long time. Joel, please join me up here on stage and let's get started today.
Good morning, Red. Good to see you.
I'm going to have you introduce Mckay because I think it's important for our audience to know that a little bit about your family history, and I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. Actually, a few people asked that question. So it's M as in Martin, C-K-A-Y is how you spell it, but it is pronounced Mckay, which is the original Scottish Highland pronunciation for it. Most people will say Mckay mistakenly, including a number of people who have the last name. So it seems to me it is a long-standing tradition in the clan to debate whether it's Mckay or Mckay. But when I run into people from Scotland in the Upper Highlands, they always say, you pronounce it properly. So that's it. And the last thing I'll say is the clan's been around for 1,000 years. Long history, both fighting against the crown and for the crown. And it's a proud part of who I am and who we are in my family.
My first active duty station was Barbers Point, Hawaii, back at the beginning of the Vietnam War, 1971. I actually got there. They were coming back from a tour over there. And my skipper at that time was just in the transition of leaving and a new guy taking over. The new guy taking over was a Mckay, a Gerald Mckay. Jerry is what everybody called him. We were senior enough to call him by his first name. All the rest of us just call us skipper or captain. But he went definitely by the Mckay, and I guess that maybe 3-4 years back, middle of COVID, he passed away. So he was a neat guy. A little different at first, but once you got to understand him, like most people, they have a certain way they want to do things. And I think we find that in our authors. We have a certain way we want to do things. You don't write romance, you don't write sci-fi so much, but you write fantasy adventure. So you focused in on that. So why don't we take you back a little bit and tell us, how did you get involved with writing and how did that transition to becoming an author really happen?
Yeah, for sure. Just before I get there, Red, I just want to say as a veteran, thanks for your service. My stepdad is a former U.S. Army serviceman, and my brother serves in Canadian Army, and everybody generations back. So wearing the uniform in that service and citizenship is important to me, and I just want to say appreciate your service and what you did for your country and the Allies. In terms of my story and how I got into writing, it was really when I was 12 years old, I was told it wasn't by my best friend at the time, it wasn't cool to play with action figures anymore. But I would say, a serialist in the sense that when I was playing with action figures as a kid or my toys or whatever it was, I had my own characters, my own stories, and they connected from day to day to day to day. And I was a big fan of action adventure movies, fantasy movies, that type of thing. So medieval history was always of interest to me, as it is for many young people, still is today. And so I naturally gravitated towards that. So when I stopped playing with toys based on that advice that it wasn't cool as a 12-year-old to do that, I started writing, because we didn't have any money in my family for me to go out and get a camera and be a filmmaker. Certainly not talented as an artist or an illustrator in any way. So, literally, a pad, a foolscap, and a pencil is how I started. And I started with fantasy because that's where I wanted to take to. Those are the types of stories that I enjoyed reading. And for me, it never really stopped. It's interesting because fantasy and horror is sort of where I find my place. My first two books were firmly in horror. Most of my short stories are. So this latest novel, which is young adult fantasy, is really me coming back to my 12 to 13, 14-year-old self and writing that book that I think I would have wanted to read at that age.
I notice over your right shoulder there is a large picture, man in black. So I have to assume that's part of your fantasy, sci-fi, and even to some degree horror.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for a second, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, go for it.
So that picture is actually done by a British Columbia artist. He's Indigenous, and you can't see it here, but if you zoom in, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name off the front of my mind right now. But if you were to Google Indigenous Star Wars artist on Vancouver Island, you'll find this guy. You should go check out his work. Anybody's watching it, maybe buy some. What he does is he takes traditional Northwest Coast Indigenous art styles, and then he bakes it into like a Star Wars picture. So he's a Star Wars fan. So in this one, if you were actually to zoom in, you'd see the detail on Darth Vader's mask and his suit. Is actually Indigenous coastal design from, I think, really Coast Salish people. So it's very cool. It was a gift from my board of directors from my last job when I left there late last year, because they knew I'm such a nerd and a Star Wars and fantasy fan. So they got that for me. And now in my current job, I'm the city manager here in Quesnel, which is the guy who's basically responsible for running the city. And the old saying, you can't fight City Hall, and no one really likes City Hall. So I thought it was apropos to have the Dark Lord of the Sith up in the city manager's office, just to sort of tongue-in-cheek send a message that the city manager is the villain in Quesnel. Though obviously I try not to be, but I thought it was funny.
Okay, silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Any potential of having Darth Vader appear in any of your books?
No. Mostly for trademark reasons. If I was invited by Lucasfilm or whoever owns, I guess it's Disney now that owns that, and they said, "Hey, we want you to do a novelization or something or a short story," I would leap at that. Okay. But yeah, I'm not gonna write fan fiction at this point in time.
Okay, so deep passion, obviously there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a book or two written. Did they get published, or they just get written and put on the shelf?
No, they're published. So Wolf at the Door was my first. It's a horror comedy novella. It was published in 2022. It's really a COVID book. It's short, and it's basically, I'll put it this way, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation meets Cycle of the Werewolf. So basically, you've got a family, highly dysfunctional. They all gather for a Thanksgiving dinner, which in Canada is in October. Happened to be on a night of a full moon. Dinner party is a disaster, a la National Lampoon's, and then werewolves show up about halfway through and start ripping people apart, and they have to figure out how to survive. So that book is out there. It's done well, and it was really me trying to write during COVID, when that first phase, when we were all stuck indoors. about people with first world problems suddenly being faced with real world problems. That's kind of the underlying message with that. And then the second book is It Came from the Trees and Other Violent Aberrations, which is an anthology of pulp fiction, dark fiction stories. There's a sci-fi in there, there's a fantasy in there, but the rest are horror. That came out last year, and it's a throwback to old spin rack stories and books and stuff that you would find at your corner store. So that's a cool one too, if you like that type of fiction.
Okay, so when we were backstage before we started, I asked you about certain things that we want to make sure we cover today. So when you started your first book, what was your discipline like then before you actually started to write and as you were writing versus the second book that came out? How did things change and what did you notice?
I'll go back a bit because it's a good question. We talked a bit about discipline. You know, when I first started writing when I was 12, I started writing a fantasy novel at that point in time. It wasn't any good. It took me 2 years, got it done by the time I was 14, never saw the light of day. But I, you know, as a teenager and through my 20s, when it came to my fiction, I really didn't have any discipline around it. I would just write when I felt inspired. And I had this idea in my head that, you know, you follow your muse. And when the muse shows up, that's when you write. But I found as I got into my 30s and now just cresting into 40, that's not actually how it works. I have to, for me at least, I have to treat it like a job, the way I did with my journalism when I was in that career mode years ago, which is you just get up every day and you write. Whether it's good or not, it doesn't matter. And you just keep going until you reach the end, barf it up on the page, get it out there. It'll suck when it's in its first draft form. And then you go back and make it good and edit. But the problem I ran into was not being consistent, not sitting down, you know, giving myself excuses like writer's block, which for me, I know is a thing for people, but for me, it was, I was using that as an excuse to not write and just sit and think. And, you know, like daydreaming about your story can be useful, but it's not useful if you actually want to get something done. And so I had to overcome those things. And I found the way for me to overcome those things was very similar to working out, which is it's not great to hit the gym if you haven't been there in 6 months and go hard for 3 days. You'll just end up hurting yourself, exhausting yourself, and then you won't go back. What you actually have to do is start really small, really simple, build a habit over sort of 6 to 9 weeks of every day doing it to the point where your brain is reprogrammed to just, this is what I do every day. I get up and I do this. And so my promise to myself is 2 sentences every day on something. And what often happens is it's more than 2 sentences. But that's kind of what I've learned over time. And that was what helped take me from a person who was writing fiction here and there, but never really getting anything done, not getting better at the craft itself, to somebody who now, in the space of 5 years, will have 3 books out and a number of short stories published around North America. So.
Okay, we're going to bring your website up here in just a moment and have a chance to do that. But before we do that, one of the things that I try to keep up with what methods do other authors use, you know, what are their tips? And one of the ones that I really fell in love with is Hemingway's comment on never finish the end of a chapter while you're there. We may have talked about this last time, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I find that to be extremely valuable because if you finish everything, your brain is shut off. And now, but if I leave the last paragraph, that may not be the end of the book. I may be thinking overnight and all of a sudden something else happens and that book gets extended a little bit more.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that because I found that too, right? It's you know, if you get to the end of a chapter and you're like, hey, that's all wrapped up. And then, you know, I feel great. I got, 10, 20 pages, whatever it is done. I'll get back at it tomorrow. But you don't know where you're going next. That would be a real problem for me as an author. So I find one of the other things that helps me, and I think this is the line that you're coming in on at this is that I will get as far as I can, but I'm also going to know what at least the next 2 sentences are, or the next paragraph, or that direction of the next scene. So I can dive back in the next day and pick up that, almost like that cadence again, right? It's like when you're a long distance runner, like that first 5 to 10 minutes kind of hurts, but then you get into the mode and you keep going. And I find that is very similar to writing. And so any way that I can take away that or lessen, mitigate that sort of first 5-10 minutes, except it's always going to be a little bit rough, even if I know that those first 2 sentences or that paragraph. But if I've got an idea where I'm going, then the rest will start to flow. I'll get back into the flow state a lot faster. And so when I talk about writing, like, probably just because of the nature of my life, how I was raised, like, I equate a lot of it to working out. Like, it is for me that very similar mentality.
I'm looking at the time, and I know we have a commercial break coming up in about 4 minutes, but I would like to at least introduce your website to our audience. So why don't you just talk a little bit about what would somebody find on here that's important?
Yeah, so number one, sign up for the newsletter. So every page there's a little sign up. You can enter your email address. I think on the homepage it's at the bottom, but if you go to news, it's up top. The website is meant to be a portal to figure out what's tracking with me. It's a place where you can get links to my books, the latest information, and then of course I have the newsletter, which I try to get something out every 6 to 8 weeks and just gives people information on what's going on, what's coming up next. What was I thinking when I was writing something new? What are bits and pieces of fiction? What am I watching? What am I playing? That kind of information. So it's kind of a storehouse or a hub for, if you're interested in my fiction, you like my fiction, then you can find it. You can find links to it. Go buy those books, even the short stuff. So it's all inventoried there. And then certainly news. The other thing that I threw in there is you can hire me as a ghostwriter too, ghostwriter, editor. So if you're interested in those types of services, I do those things as a consultant and enjoy that work in spare time too. And there's contact information under the About page for me there.
I think we've had one other ghostwriter on the show, but it's been a long time ago. So that's kind of new. That's not something we see all the time. And the last category there in a moment is about, and then we will continue for a minute and go. Why ghostwriting? Is that just something else to bring money in the door, or is it just something to keep your skill levels up, or what?
It's not about money. It's about craft and helping people out. Same with the editing and frankly the writing. I mean, if I sold 1 million copies, made $1 million or more, I'd be a happy camper. But I've got a good career, and so a lot of this isn't actually about the money. I'm not motivated by money typically as a person. Not that it doesn't matter. It does. It's nice, and I like having it. So I'll be real honest about that. But no, I look for any excuse to write, connect with other writers, and make this more a part of my life. When I got in my mid-30s, late 30s, I started asking myself some deeper questions around, what do you want your life to be? How do you want the makeup of your life to be, and where you spend your time? And one of the easy answers for me was, I just want to spend a lot more time on a day-to-day basis surrounded by fiction, engaging with other writers, and making that part of my life. And so that's really what that's about.
Engaging with other writers there in the Vancouver, British Columbia. Where do you go?
Well, I live up in Prince George, so it's about 900 kilometers north of Vancouver. So it's a ways away. We've got a nice little literary scene. We've got a university where I'm doing my master's right now in literature up in Prince George. So we've got some great writers in Prince George and a bit of a network there, which is nice to be a part of. There's the Vancouver Writers Festival, which is a big deal every year. And similar events take place in Edmonton and Calgary, which is the next province over. But honestly, a lot of it's online. I find, I don't have, because I got a full-time career and I've got young kids and I'm kind of doing this as a side hustle at this point in time. Digital connections with other authors, writers, is really critical for me, and creating those connections. And I find, whether I'm connected with somebody in the States, elsewhere in Canada, or even the UK, that digital presence and those communities online, it's obviously different than being in person, but pretty valuable. And it allows you to connect with writers from around the world and readers too, which is one of the great silver linings of current technology.
Okay, we're going to be going to a commercial break here in just a very brief moment. But it's when we come back, I want to start talking about your cover art. How did you get that designed? And so that'd be the next phase to talk about after the commercial.
Lady Ella flies up high, spreading kindness through the sky. With Lord Jack right by her side, through the world they glide. They listen close, they understand, helping creatures in the land. With open hearts, they lend a hand. Come along, come and see. Kindness starts with you and me. Listen close, hear the sound. Kindness makes the world go round. Goo goo gaga, goo goo gaga. So spread your wings and soar so high, like Lady Ella in the sky. With Lord Jack we'll always say, listening and kindness light the way.
Our guest today on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network is Joel Mckay. Joel, please join us again.
Happy to be back.
One of the things that always separates a lot of people is the covers. We have some amazing covers, but no content. Some people have some really good content, but the cover doesn't attract them. But with each genre, whether it's romance or sci-fi or nonfiction, there are certain expectations. So tell us a little bit about your thought process of what you told your designer that you wanted on your covers, and then how did that actually happen?
Yeah, so how it all came together was I knew the general sense of what I wanted, but I'm not an artist or an illustrator, so it's hard to translate that. I've got to use words and hope that the artist gets it. What I wanted was something that really spoke to the serialized adventures of like the 1930s, 40s, like those old style adventure yarns, and some whimsy. This is a young adult book, and so I wanted it to be accessible and indicated through the type of illustration who this was for. So I actually engaged with my publicist at Creative Edge, Mickey Mickelson, and I said, "Hey, Mickey," because he's always so good for advice on the business side of publishing. I said, "What do you suggest?" He said, "Well, let me hook you up with somebody down in the States, actually." And so Dina Ray at ebook builders, ebookbuilders.com. Check it out if you're looking for somebody. She's awesome. So I sent her an email and I said, "Hey," it's like 2-3 sentences. I was like, "Hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking." But I knew like it wasn't really, like that's not a lot to go off of. And she came back with the cover, and took me 24 or 48 hours when I was looking at it, and I was like, "Oh, good Lord, she got it right. She nailed it." And I shared it with some folks just to make sure I wasn't off my rocker, and they're like, "Oh, that's a beautiful cover. We love it." And so the cover, we did no edits on it. It's exactly as her original draft. And then she got into the interior formatting. So picking sort of not just your font, but your drop caps and your sort of your chapter design and all those other things, and customized all of that. So the layout of the book is beautiful. Like, I have to say, like, I'm really, really happy with how this one turned out. And that's something I've learned more about over time. When we published Wolf at the Door, it was pretty simple, pretty skinny, and sort of, fun cover, but I would say not my favorite of what I've published so far. And I've learned more as I've gone on. And one of the things I've learned that I did with this book, and certainly the last book, It Came from the Trees, is really go out there, spend the time and the money to get an artist that you enjoy working with, who creates art that is along the lines of what you're thinking, and then let them go to town. And one of the things I try to do too is not edit much, because again, I'm not an illustrator. That's their job. They're not bugging me about the writing and editing paragraph styles and stuff like that, because they know that's not their job. So I stay in my lane and I trust what they come up with.
I found another way of doing it is to buy a bunch of, have designers create individual ebook covers. And now you can generally get that for under $10 pretty easily. And I
Yeah.
put them up on social media, A or B, B or C, C or D. And so I get some
Yeah.
audience. Now, what I like doesn't always work because I like some really nice stuff, but it doesn't connect with anyone. I found that out by trial and error.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually really good advice too, because you know, in the current age we're in, like you can get this stuff made, like relatively cheaply, but you're still supporting an artist, and then engage your audience, right? Because your audience is everything. It you know, once you get past the writing into the actual publishing, now it's a business and it's about the audience. And so thinking about it the way you are, Red, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Well, I went ahead and I hired, literally last week, I hired 5 independent artists and on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com.
Yeah.
And I said, this is what, here's this. I just gave the title and subtitle and author's name. And one author gave me 10 ebook covers, another gave me 7, another gave me 3. But I got a variety of things, and I went, each one we talked about with the client, boom, 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 boom. And okay, we like these 2, so all the rest of them are out. And he wanted to make the decision himself because it's a nonfiction book. It really doesn't require a lot other than some text on the front cover. He picked what he wanted, and literally before the show, I went back to that same designer and said, okay, now we're ready to pay for that. So sometimes having choices allows you a little bit more flexibility because the designer takes your same words and that's what comes to his or her mind. And same thing over here. And then all of a sudden, whoa, I never thought that. And that's kind of, I guess, what happened in yours. You gave the words to the designer and voila, it was delivered.
Yeah.
Can't ask more than that.
No, you can't. And I have to say, I mean, a lot of that is the trust in my publicist, right? Like, I've got a good publicist, and so he recommended somebody good. Had I just picked somebody out of the blue, I'm not sure that I would have just a one-off gotten exactly what I was looking for. So that's the other thing that was key in here for me is as the years have gone on, I've learned, keep those people around who continuously deliver and are fun to work with and understand the things about the business that you don't understand. It's just like having a good mechanic or a good barber. If you find one, you kind of want to stick close to them because they're going to be helpful. And so this case with Dina Ray and ebook builders, I think I found one. And so that's where I'll be going for the next book as well.
Another option an author might consider, and I've used this twice now, is sometimes, this particular book was 1850s, Central Texas, and I had the words because he told me what he wanted. So I took AI, had it create 5 different book covers, and then I took those. I said, which ones do you like? He said, I like that one and that one. So I took those 2, I sent them to a designer. So it was a matter of being able to get something more than just the words, the image. And so sometimes you can use AI, and I sent them to the designer, and I got a really nice cover out of it. He was super happy.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up too, because when I've been having these conversations, AI always comes up, and it seems to be it's a conversation in creative circles right now where it's a this or that, and I don't think it's a this or that. And I think what you just demonstrated is actually there is a place for those of us who aren't artists to engage with AI, give us something roughly that we want, but then go to a designer with it and say, here's what I'm kind of thinking. Now I want to hire you to actually do sort of a proper job of this as an artist, because I support you as an artist, as I hope people will support me as an artist. So I think AI is opening up a whole world that actually is beneficial, and I'm not scared of it. And I think we have to just apply a moral judgment and a process to where we engage with it. And you're not putting that cat back in the bag either, right? That tech is out there now, and it's changing everything. So,
and the AI has its own place. It's a tool, and that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
I have a paragraph here. It's more technical than it needs to be. AI, give me it for 7th grade level, and voila! I mean, in less than a second, it's there. And so it's my intellectual content just tweaked a little bit. And anyway, let's go down the social media path. What are you on, and where do you find best for marketing your books?
Probably Instagram is currently best right now. I'm on Instagram and actually, oddly enough, LinkedIn. but I'll explain that in a second. So I'm on X, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. What I'll say is I'm not a huge fan of social media generally. I'm on there, but I'm more of a lurker than a content creator. Sorry, I just had to reject a call. So what I found is that X used to be good. They changed the algorithm. A lot of people have disappeared from it. It's not as effective. I'm still on there. Instagram is great because of images and reels, and it's just sort of that Bookstagram community that's on there. LinkedIn for me is strangely where I get the most engagement when I do a post. I think a lot of that is just because of my professional background and the size of my network there. So the folks that are connected with me on LinkedIn actually aren't necessarily readers. They're people that I built that network out through my other career. But it's a robust network. And so it actually, for me, I'm careful about it. I'm judicious in its use. But when I post something there, it gets really, really good engagement and drives some traffic. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of it. And I'm always trying to keep up on it. I will say, I mean, everybody says be on TikTok, go to TikTok. I've got a personal issue with that because of who owns TikTok and where the data is stored. And so for me, I'm applying a bit of a geopolitical and sovereignty lens to that. And so I'm not on there right now. Should that situation change in the future, then I might get on there.
Okay. Marketing. Besides social media, do you have any other avenues that you use?
Yeah, so I mentioned my publicist. That's key for me. So a lot of it is getting out there, doing interviews, engaging with other authors and writers, getting reviews, those types of things, feedback on the book. That's really helpful for me. I mean, I've tried Amazon ads and stuff like that in the past, but I find you don't get a lot of value for them. One thing that I have done that's proven valuable in the past is I'll put the book up on NetGalley. And so that's just great for generating reviews from that community and feedback on the cover too. And it's a few $100, but I find it's worthwhile, especially for somebody who's doing this as sort of a moonlight job, a side hustle. You're just trying to build your profile. That's a good place early on to get your content out there and share it with other reviewers, writers and readers. And get that feedback and generate a little bit of buzz. And then hopefully over time, you start to accumulate that audience.
Okay, we get close to the end of the show here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you a chance to tell people where your books can be bought. But I wanted to cover two real quick topics. One, any interest in having an audiobook, or is that part of the plans?
There is. It's a capacity issue for me at this point in time. I think that I would consider that depending on how well the book itself does. So if the book itself does well, then I might come back to it and look at doing an audiobook of it. I'm an audiobook reader or listener, so I certainly see the value in it, but I haven't made that part of the plan right now. I mean, I'm encouraged to do that by a number of people. It's just a capacity issue for me. Okay,
and I guess a side note is, what do you read?
Well, reading, so let's go back. So reading to me, I follow Stephen King's advice, which is if you want to get good at writing, you got to read a lot. And so I read a ton. I set a goal every year, about 50 books a year, and try to get there or exceed it. And that's mostly fiction. So I am studying the craft of other authors in the same sphere as myself. And I try to expose myself to as many authors down different publishing paths as I can. Historic stuff, classics, new stuff, indie published, traditional published, self-published, authors from different backgrounds, BIPOC authors, and then LGBTQ authors, and just get a sense of everything that's out there and who's doing what. And when I'm reading it, I'm not just reading it for pleasure, though that is the case. I'm also studying it and getting a sense of sort of what they're doing, what's working out there, and that keeps the sentences in my head, and it makes it easier to create and refine my own work over time. So mostly I'm reading horror, and the last 6 months, I'd say, because I've been in the mode of the Dungeoneers and getting this book out, I've been almost reading exclusively fantasy. So I've been on a real fantasy kick, and it's been real nice because it's been about 5-6 years of solid horror, just to come back to some really fun fantasy stories and re-engage with that part of myself.
I find that I'm reading something and the character is introduced. I'll actually stop and go back and reread. How did they introduce that character or location? I pay attention to some of those things. Or if somebody's talking about, this lady's wearing this dress or whatever, or this bar scene, and I'll go back and I'll read that a couple, 3 times just because I want to absorb how did they actually describe that particular event at that time.
I do that too. I will say very quickly as a reader and an enthusiast of literature, people often will refer back in their life for philosophical guidance to theological or philosophical texts, whether it be the Bible or the Stoics or whoever it is. And I do those things too, because I think they're valuable just for life and interpretation. I do the same thing with fiction. So I will frequently go back and I'll open up a copy of Lord of the Rings or a Dragonlance book or a Stephen King book, and I'll go to a scene and I'm like, how did they do that? And exactly what you're saying. I'll just reread it. I'll look at a couple of sentences or paragraphs, and it's kind of like referring to a passage in the Bible where you're drawing on something for whatever issues you're dealing with in life at that point in time. I do the same thing for the craft, and it sounds like you do too.
Okay. As we're wrapping up today, I want you to answer one question, then tell people how do they get your books or how do they get in touch with you. So the question is, are any of your books going to be in a foreign language anytime soon?
No, not at this point in time. Only publishing in English, though that I may look at that at some point. Again, depends on the success of the book and my own capacity. You can find my stuff. Best place to go is my website. Sign up for the newsletter, www.joelmckay.ca. And you can also find me on Amazon. And then some of the stuff is available through Ingram, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, wherever you can find that sort of thing. And last plug is Dungeoneers and the Treasure of Rhone is out August 15th. Pre-release sales, you can buy it now, pre-order the ebook. Paperback will be out August 15th.
Okay, for our audio audience, the website is Joel Mckay, JoelMckay.ca, not com, but CA. So with that, Joel, thank you so very, very much. I always enjoy talking with you. We had a great conversation last time, and I wish you the best up there 900 kilometers north of Vancouver. That's kind of getting up there a little ways.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if summer's come your way yet, but
we're full into it. It's going to be 30 degrees Celsius over this weekend, so that's up around 90. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's green. This is sun's out till 10:30 at night. This is the time to be here. It's always a pleasure, Brett. Thanks for the chat.
Joel, take care, and we will catch you later on down the road. And I look forward to seeing you again, especially after August 15th and your new book is out. Let's see what we can do.
Absolutely. Take care.
Okay. Bye now, Joel. red.olaughlin here. We're wrapping up the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. The next show is called The Wise Ones, and my guest is Caroline Summer. She is known as the Health Hunter, and so we're going to have a really interesting conversation. I believe most of it's going to be on glutathione, if I remember right. I talked with her recently, and we had a conversation on health. I think she lives in Spain, but she spends a fair amount of right now. She may still be down in Marrakesh or someplace at a conference. So anyway, Caroline's going to be joining us here just in a moment. And then after that show, my show called Talking Heads is the last one of today. I do 3 shows back to back. And on my Talking Head show, I'm talking about, are you really in control? And I'm looking at it from a health perspective primarily, but just about anything we do in our life, we have some level of control. And then all of a sudden we lose that control and we got to change something to get back. And maybe something as simple as gain 5 pounds over the course of a 2-week vacation. That may be relatively easy. Or all of a sudden I'm going to bed an hour, half hour later than I normally do. Things are more difficult to change. So anyway, we're going to talk about, are you in control, on Talking Heads today. That and Caroline Summer coming up on The Wise Ones. I'm going to bid you adieu, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, you all. Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents The Corner Bookstore, hosted by red.olaughlin. Step into a world where every story inspires. These pages come to life through the voices of authors from around the globe. Written by our global community of TV show hosts and best-selling authors, these works span genres, generations, and geographies, united by the power of storytelling. Discover your next favorite book and meet the minds behind the work. Thursdays, only on USA Global TV and Radio.
USA Global TV and Radio, home of the YouTube Silver Creator Award, proudly presents Just the Thing for Your Ring, introducing the patented Ring Thing. Your premium personal ring holder to keep your ring safe, nearby, and avoid loss.
The Ring Thing just got smarter. Add your logo and an NFC tag that opens to your website with one tap. Waterproof, inner padding, and now a forever business card.
Just the thing for your ring. Scan the QR code seen here to learn more about Ring Thing or place your order. Follow Ring Thing on Instagram at ring_thing_ or go to our website ringthing.com. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
From the magical world of the amazing adventures of Lady Ella comes a heartwarming new journey filled with kindness, courage, and compassion. Lady Ella, the beloved ladybug and listening mentor, is back, and this time she is not alone. Meet her brave and thoughtful brother, Lord Jack. Together, they take flight on their very first kindness adventure. Along the way, they meet 3 new friends in need: a duck feeling discouraged, a mouse struggling to be understood, and a busy little bee who's completely lost. But with the power of elevated listening and simple acts of kindness, Lady Ella and Lord Jack show us how understanding and empathy can make the biggest difference in someone's day. Written by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor. This 9th book in the best-selling Lady Ella series teaches children ages 5 to 10 the essential skills of listening, kindness, and etiquette. Now available for pre-order on Amazon. Scan the QR code and order your copy today.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.